Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love pain? Anybody got a pill like a pop for this love pain? Anybody got
edition of All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. I am one half of your dynamic duo. Go by the name of Dr. James Byrd. Joining me, my lovely and talented and beautiful wife, and she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are
the
Love Byrds. We're going to be keeping it all the way live with you today, so come on in. Tag a friend, share with a friend. Tell them the Love Byrds are on. I know that our nation is in total uproar all over the country. It's a total unrest, and hey, we are with everyone that is out there and about, but we are committed to marriages as well, and so we're not going to stop giving marriage information. Hopefully we'll have many people that can join us live, but also others that'll watch it when they're back from their protests or rallies or whatever they're engaging in on this Friday evening. So, all right, you say hello, get to the people while I get my computer set up for you, sweet.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope everybody's hearts are still pumping and beating with love and with some form of peace based on what we're dealing with. But we also have to keep our families healthy in the midst of this storm that we're in. And so that's what we're here to do, is to help you to be able to have a different mindset in the midst of our storm. So, yeah. That's the way I say it.
Short and sweet.
Yes, straight to the point.
All right. Well, today we are going to be talking about, if you saw it there on your Facebook or if you're later watching this by YouTube, we're going to be talking about the traffic rules of marriage. And it's not a real thing that exists. They're not really traffic rules of marriage, but as you see, as we go down through this list, we often talk about in marriage, we often talk about how, mostly everything you need to operate with in the world, you need a license for. You have to pass a test to be approved to do it. But for marriage, you just need to pay for a marriage certificate. You don't have to prove that you know what you're doing. You don't have to pass a test, anything like that. You just agree, go do it. Yeah. But to get a driver's license, you have to pass a written exam, and you have to actually take a practical driving exam, and you have to pass both of them before you will be given a license to be able to get behind a motor vehicle and handle it. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take some of the natural rules of traffic laws and make analogies of them as it relates to marriage. So it should be fun. We look forward for you to chime in. I say my wife does. She looks for you to chime in there on Facebook Live with any questions that you may have or any comments that you may have, and we'll just roll. So let's roll. So the first one we're going to talk about is, when it comes to driving, you have the basic speed rule. All right, which is drivers must never exceed a safe speed. All right, now this is not the same as not the speed limit, but this is just a basic speed rule. What it means is that, in bad weather conditions or different things like that, a safe person would need to slow down. So if you're normally driving 55 miles per hour, but now it was pouring down buckets of rain, common sense say to be safe, you would pump the brakes, you would slow it down a little bit. There are people in the streets right now that are protesting, excuse me. Hopefully people are not rioting, but hopefully people are protesting. But there are people in the streets protesting. Well, if that's a street you normally drive down at 35 miles per hour and you see people protesting, well, the basic speed rule would be slow down, stop, turn, go another direction. All right. So how could we relate the basic speed rule to marriage? Many marriages have been on such a frenetic pace, before this pandemic came about.
Yeah.
We were just on the go. Work, I work, you work. The kids have activities every night of the week. Then we have our own hobbies. Christian, we go to church. We're doing all these different things, and all of a sudden, this pandemic hit, and this quarantine hit, and we were forced to slow down.
We were forced to do something that we have never had to do in our generation, in our lifetime. And so that added to the pressure that some people were already in.
Yes.
And so now people's hearts are broken. I know mine's is. And so it's like you put all that on top of all of that, and it's like you need a miracle to really to be able to make it through this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you first need God. And my heart goes out for people who don't have him during this time, because I couldn't even imagine. I would be a nutcase. And so without him, I just don't know how you can do anything, but you absolutely need peace during this time.
Absolutely. Because this pandemic, which forces us to slow down and have to actually dwell amongst one another and deal with one another on a regular, more consistent basis than we were having to do, especially if you got small children at home and things like that. So all this is going on. But what we're saying to you is that when the quarantine is over, the pandemic's over, when all this is over and you're back out, you're back, to life, or you have the choice to do life as you choose, continue to keep that slow down basic speed rule in effect in your marriage.
Absolutely.
That you don't go weeks and months without taking the time to do things that are serious in your marriage that's going to help your marriage, whether that be regular date nights, communicating through, sometimes when we're on the go at this frenetic pace, and we have growth challenges, or we have communication issues or disagreements or something like that, because we're on the go, we just be like, I go my way, you go your way, and we just keep going, and we never settle it. Yeah. But now you're either forced to either have to deal with it, communicate with it, be willing to change, be willing to give and take, be willing to apologize, whatever the case may be, or you're going to be stuck in a house and not allowing this slowdown to cause you to get closer. And it can get you closer.
It only can go two ways.
It only can go two ways. What two ways is that?
I mean, Yeah, it can either go where you get stronger and richer in your marriage, or it will be such a drift and a division that you're thinking, when this is over, and I don't have to worry about being sick or getting anything or worrying about things being closed, I'm out. And so you're only thinking about this two ways, and so you have to reel yourself back in, because the right way to think about it is, how do we get on the same page? How do we figure this thing out where we can walk in love more than just a week? How do we get on the same page where there's just not silence in the home? Just all of these things. How do we get there? And so if we don't figure it out, we're all in trouble.
We're all in trouble. And the kids, and if those of you that have small children at home, they're watching. If you're at each other's throat constantly, they're watching. And I'll say this to you, if you have children at home as well, they're also watching that when you do have temporary speed bumps, and you do have communication challenges or disagreements or something like that, which are real, and they need to see that, not too often, but they need to see that. But when it does happen, they need to also see that, hey, you can come back together and walk in love. Mm-hmm. And if somebody got really out of bounds, that they can apologize. I remember my mind takes me back to a time where the children were, I don't even know if all the children were in the home. Maybe I know J2 was still in the home. And I remember we was in the kitchen and something was going on. I don't remember the details, but I felt you were challenging me in front of him, and I kind of laid strongly into you. Not kind of, I did. I laid strongly into you, and it was not a pretty situation, not for us. I mean, we don't curse and do all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't a pretty situation, especially in front of my son, and so afterwards. I I had to apologize first to you, that I dealt with you that strongly. And then I went and apologized to him to let him know that, listen, that's not the way you used to seeing me talk to your mom, and that's not the way that I should talk to her, and that's not the way you should talk to your wife one day. You have to find a better way to communicate when you don't like something that's being done.
Yeah.
And so, though that actual incident was not a good incident, it's turned into a learning opportunity and situation for him to see that, hey, my dad was able to, he apologized for his wrong, and he even came and apologized to me. And hopefully that paints an impression on him that, that's something that I don't want to do, because I see that's something that my dad doesn't want to do.
Good.
You remember that?
I do.
All right. So the next one we're going to, and a lot of people, when it comes to driving, you may not be familiar with this one. You're going to know about it when I say it, but the actual name, terminology of it, you may not. It's called the prima facie speed limits. Like, when I saw that, I was like, what's a prima facie speed limits or whatever? Maybe you're somebody out there who knows about driving and you know what that is. But basically, each state has general prima facie or facie speed limits, which apply when there are no speed limit signs posted. So, you've been, the different schools that our sons had to play at here in areas that we had to drive to that are not just right off the main thoroughfare. And you get off into some of these roads and you don't see a speed limit for a minute, and you're not sure what the speed limit is. And all states have their own prima facie speed limits that you should know kind of what the speed limit should be in those different areas when a speed limit sign is not posted. All right. So again, what's the question you asked? How does that apply to our marriage? Well, have you ever been traveling along, and there are often times where couples are just going along about their marriage. Everything seems fine. Everything seems good. And then all of a sudden they hit an area, whether it's through communication, through something that happened, whatever the case may be, but they hit a road, they hit a bump, they hit a something in their marriage that all of a sudden they don't know what to do with. I remember we had one years ago.
It's called the 4th of July. That's what happens in the car when the man is going the wrong way or something or disagreement happened. It feels like the 4th of July because you can be calm. Everything seems perfect. And then how do you go from 0 to 100 in a car on a trip that quick? And it could either be messed up for the rest of the time of driving, or somebody in the relationship brings it back in.
And that's when you need to, so picture what she's saying and how that works. When you're out there in natural driving and there's no speed limit sign, it doesn't give you carte blanche just to go as fast as you want to go.
Yeah.
You have to rely on what would probably be the normal prima facie area in this type of road, a type of street. It's a 1-lane street, whatever the case may be that we're on. Probably what speed you probably need to be traveling at. Mm-hmm. Well, in your marriage, when you hit that and that happens, then it should cause you to have to fall back to and rely on what are the basic normal practices that's going to help bring about peace.
Yeah. And
bring back agreement and sanctity in the relationship right now, in spite of what just happened. And this word also, I looked up this word outside of the speed limit, but prima facie, and it says it's based on the first impression, accepted as correct until proven otherwise. So when it comes to marriage, what's the first impression on marriage that's effective that has never been proven otherwise? That's God's impression. Mm-hmm. And that's the way God created marriage. And all throughout scriptures, it shows you what ways work concerning marriage and what ways don't concerning marriage. Mm-hmm. And when two people do it his way, it's got 100% chance to work.
Let's repeat that, because I don't believe nobody believes that a relationship or a marriage has 100% chance of working because of so many disappointments and so much pain in the relationship. But if you yield to God when the Holy Spirit is speaking, And even if it happens and you guys lose control, it should be a time where you get along with God and bring this thing back where your thoughts are thinking on his thoughts, not continue on the way you feel. So that means that part makes it 100%. But if you leave him out and you handle it on your own, you sometimes have a 0%.
Yeah.
You have a 0%.
Good. And in your description there, you said lose control, and it made me think about a song, but it said there's a song. I'm changing a word in the song from music to marriage. Marriage make you lose control. Marriage make you lose control. Oh, all right. You know we got to keep it fun too, while we're trying to give you good nuggets. All right. Next one. Slow traffic must keep to the right. Now, we're talking about marriage, and we're going to break this down and talk about marriage. And actually, this is two of them put together. Slow traffic must keep to the right and drive on the right of the center line. All right, that helps with the flow of traffic.
I will run you over.
Slow traffic, please keep to the right. Unless you're passing another vehicle, we know that you should keep to the right. I feel like even though we're talking about marriage, I need to say that to some people that you may be watching this, and you may not know that, because there are people that actually drive on the roads and they'll just cruise slowly in the left lane. Get over to the right.
I don't get that.
If you're not passing, if you're not moving by vehicles, get over to the right. Maybe you just didn't read maybe you just didn't know that's the way it goes. So I'm informing you that that's the way it goes in the natural, and then we're gonna bring it to you also in the marriage world. And then also we drive in this country. We drive on the right side of the center line. All right.
Yeah.
This helps all the flow of traffic on this side go one way, and the flow of traffic going in the opposite direction the other way. Because if we didn't stay with that basic traffic rule of staying to the right side, what would happen?
Collision.
Head-on collisions would happen.
And couples do head-on collision on a consistent basis, and some to the degree where they're so close they can headbutt each other. And so we got to figure out this thing, man. We really got to figure it out.
And so when it comes to your marriages, I need couples to stay in their lanes. So you don't cause head-on collisions. In our marriages, we must establish our roles and our responsibilities so that we can stay in our lane, so we can stay on our side, so that we can keep the flow of everything in our marriage going without collision. All right? Now, first thing you might think when I say stay in your lane and understand establishing your roles and responsibilities are, first of all, you're going to think it's gender. Okay? And that's fine. But not all roles and responsibilities are gender-based.
No.
Okay, now there are some that should be. A man should be certain things in their marriage and in their home. Okay, but there are certain things that I believe it should be based upon the demonstrated skills and ability of the people involved in the marriage. For example, if the wife can't cook and the man's an excellent cook, then he probably should do most of the cooking.
Yeah.
In the home. If they want to eat well.
I just wasn't so blessed. I just didn't get it.
If they want to eat well, and when it comes to cleaning, if he cleans better than she cleans, then what's wrong? Maybe he should be doing most of the cleaning. If y'all want the place to be clean, investing. If she's a better investor, or if he's a better investor, who's ever better? Who's best at creating a budget and keeping us on our budget, things like that. There are practical things that go along in this marriage. Now, it's your responsibility, man, that these things are going on, but God has given you help. And so why stifle your help on something that she's better than you at? This is not a real example. This is not real in our marriage, but let's just say, my wife's natural job in life, outside of our marriage, her natural job, she worked as an accountant. Mm-hmm. And then here I am at home trying to handle the finances and jacking it up all the time. I'm the man, it's my responsibility. What kind of sense does that make, and what kind of success does that give us in a marriage if I got an accountant right here who does this for a living and she's excellent at it, and I won't allow her to. Now, only two things would allow that man not to allow her to take over in that area of the finances. And one is either it's pride, or two is just is total foolish lack of knowledge.
Yeah, and sometimes with men, you're taught so many different traditions. You know, this is what we do. You handle the money, you do this, but at the same time, it's hindering and destroying your family. When there's no way that you can look at something killing you, but you won't change it because this is what mama, peepaw, and your pops and your uncles or whoever told you to do it that way, but it's killing y'all. Something has to say, this ain't working. I need to make some changes. But most of the time we hold on to those traditions to death. And it destroys a whole family. And you could have kept your family if you would have just adjusted. But most people do not do that.
I think because of what you just said, and I would just estimate a number. Let's just say we know these are not the specific statistics, but let's just say 50% of marriages end in divorce. And it's more than that. But let's just say 50% of marriages end in divorce. I would go on to say, of those 50% of marriages that end in divorce, probably 75% to 80% of them probably could have still worked it out and end up having a good marriage had they know how to operate and stay in stay in their lane, stay on the right side, share the skills and abilities, allow the help, function as a unit that works together and not, as you said, like try to do it just because that's the way mom and them used to do it and their marriage didn't work or it wasn't good anyway.
It's more, sometimes if you really sit back and watch, there is more competition and competing in a marriage than other people you got to deal with on the outside that are out in the world on your job. It's like, what about you? What about you? Why you didn't ask? Why you didn't do it? I mean, it's like, what did we sign up for? What did we get married for if the person you're with, you at war with them to the degree where everything is trying to prove them wrong or right or any of those type of things, then what are we doing? It's like you either a team or you're not. And if you're on a team playing basketball, football, soccer, and you act like that, they will put you off the team, even if you made more money than LeBron James, if you were causing the team to fail. So we got to shift the way we're thinking about this is, do you want your team to fail? Your team is you and your wife, and if there's children, that's your team. And that's the first team. That's the first family in your household. And that's the one that you need to master.
Amen to that. Next one. Obey traffic control devices. All right. We all know that when we're driving, there are street lights out there. There are stop signs. There are crosswalk signs. There's yield signs. And all other kind of whatever, signs that are out there that cause the traffic to flow in a correct way. When you get to these are important because when you get to an intersection, and some people want to go straight, some people want to turn, some people want to turn this way. Without the traffic signs giving directions, what's going to happen?
Once again, destruction, collisions, and there's no signs of boundaries. We don't set up boundaries in a relationship. And like you were saying earlier when you first started, was that there's no test for getting married and things like that. Most people don't even go to premarital counseling. Like they think they already know it all or whatever. But back in the day when my mom and them got married, or even probably past that point, you still had to take a blood test to make sure you weren't going to kill the other person. Yeah. Physically. They cut that out too.
Wow.
Now it's like, just come get a license and that's it. You don't have to take a blood test. You don't have to do anything. And a lot of that was happening to make sure, say, if you had sickle cell traits and stuff, but we don't do nothing anymore. We sign up for it, say we're smarter than the people God put in the earth to help counsel you and help you be better at your marriage. We say, ain't nobody gonna be in my business. We got this. I mean, we say all kind of things and don't have the tools to make it.
So what are the traffic control devices that you need to have in place in your marriage? Listen, you're gonna have to come up with these, but when you're headed for a serious collision in your marriage, we need to have these devices in place to keep us from crashing and burning. When we notice our DPA kicking in, when we disagree on a non-essential something, when important decisions that can affect us all need to be made. That's a collision waiting to happen when one person goes and makes an important decision that has an effect on the entire family. And I mean, I've seen it from I've seen, you know, a husband maybe try to do something good. I'm just thinking of a specific example. A husband try to do something good for his wife, and it's something that would be good for, you know, a husband where he made 6 or 7 figures, and financially there's no struggle or anything like that. And for her birthday, he just decided to go out and surprise her with a brand new car, and he didn't tell her. He didn't discuss that with her that, you know, I went out and purchased you a new $70,000 car. But financially, there's no struggle, and he handles the finances to know that there's no struggle. But in a marriage where things are tight and tighter and a little more difficult, and their finances rely on both of their finances, things like that, and then he tries to go out and do the same thing. Wow, the car looks great and it's nice and it's better than the car I was in, but what type of pressure have you just now put on us financially?
Absolutely.
That you just, my car was paid for. Now you just brought us in this high car note for 5 to 65 to 7 or however many years. You see what I'm saying? So for the surprise, yay, it was nice, surprise. And now for the next 5 years, it's like.
And now you have a marriage problems because we have those type of issues when there's pressure from finances and stress. Those things elevate who we become.
Yes.
You know, because that doesn't mean that's who you really are, but in stress and pressure and constantly being pushed down and cannot even go buy yourself a meal or go on a quote, a date night, that applies pressure.
Yeah, it makes it tough.
It makes it tough. And then the heart is sick, you know, and when the heart is sick, nothing good can come out of that.
Man.
Nothing.
And the reason I mentioned when we disagree on non-essentials in here is because if something is an essential something in marriage, I mean, this is what the Bible says about it. This is important to a marriage. Then we can't afford to disagree on that.
No.
We got to become one. We got to get in. We got to agree to operate this thing the way God says, the way wisdom says, things like that. But if it's a non-essential, man, let it go. If it's a non-essential, it's not a big deal. Let it go. It's not worth us, not speaking for the next 3 weeks. Okay. Now, I know that sounds, hopefully to some of y'all, that just sounds crazy with me saying that, with us not speaking for the next 3 weeks. But that actually happens.
Yes.
That actually happens in people's relationships. When I say not speaking for the next 3 weeks, that means that it's for the next 3 weeks. It's just, hey, for 3 weeks, for 1 week, for 2 weeks, it's, hey, what's for dinner? And there's no conversation about anything else, no cuddle, no love making, no nothing or whatever. That just can't. That's not healthy. And that's not good. Good for a relationship.
But do you guys ever sit and think about how can something happen to you that long? Is it being immature? You're just fleshly, you know? I mean, what is that thing that can capture you and hold you hostage and have you in prison for 3 weeks?
Oh, watch out, Dr. Byrd. Some of these people that do this are older.
That's what I'm saying.
70s.
Absolutely. We've seen some. And so I'm saying, what is that you allow? Because the other person, if they're still functioning, they're not in prison with you.
Right.
So why don't you lock yourself up and put yourself in this prison, this holding cell, miserable? Because if you're not dwelling in peace, that's a place of misery. So why would you want to stay there that long? And you got to really, people don't ask themselves questions.
And they act like they think they punish
the other person. And it's just like, man, yeah.
Grow up. Mature. Next one. Signal your intentions. When turning or changing lanes or pulling out of a parked position, you should always use turn signals. Your turn signals signal to the other drivers on the road that I'm about to change lanes. I'm about to impart into the lane that you're in. So slow down, be careful, give me an opportunity to get in. If I didn't see you, see my turning signal so that we can avoid me smashing into the back of you or me running into the side of you because you're changing lanes. And that's what the turning signal is to do, is to alert people that you should.
It should be looks we give each other and say, I'm in the other lane or I'm coming over.
Hey, there we go.
It should be something to stop the drama. It's got to be something. I'm going to create something to give people, we don't care if you have to hold up stuff. This is not today.
So in our marriages, we must never go in a different direction. Listen to this. Listen. And we must never go in a different direction. Remember, we're talking, when you're in your automobile, you're going into a different lane. You're changing lanes. You're going into a different direction. We must never go in a different direction than we had previously agreed upon without using our turn signals. So it means that if there's something that we have agreed upon, that this is the way we operate in our family, in our marriage, I can't just decide to change and go in a different direction without letting you know, without having a discussion with you. I'm just making this up. We said that we're not going to start a family for the first 5 years, and that's what we've agreed on. And you're taking birth control. And then you get this epiphany that you're ready to start a family now. Your mama been telling you she wants grandkids, and you want to start a family now. And so instead of going and talking to your husband and saying, what do you think about starting a family now? I know we're just 1 year into this 5-year plan. What do you think about starting out? You just decide to stop taking the pills. And all of a sudden, oops, you get pregnant. You're throwing the pills away. So when he says, I thought you were taking the pill. I am, but nothing's 100% proof. You just changed the lane without a turn signal.
Yup.
And that's just one example I just made up. But there, you can apply this to anything in your relationship. If there's a way that we have agreed upon that this is the way that we're going to function in our operation. Listen, I'm not saying that as we go along, we can't agree to change. But as long as we are in agreement, this is the way we function, that's going to work for our marriage. But if one or somebody turns away in another direction, that's going to have an effect on our marriage or on our family without letting other people in the family know, you're not using your turn signal, and that's going to potentially crash and burn. Anything you want to add?
Because can you imagine as a woman and you did that and then he seems disappointed or he acts like he don't want, you married and he's acting like he don't want the kid.
Yeah.
It's like, look at the pain you subjected yourself to because you guys had a plan. Yeah. You know, I'm not talking about like we really can control that who gets pregnant and who doesn't. You know what I'm saying? But if you had an agreement, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing my part. You know, I didn't stop. I've been taking them. I did this, and it happened. You're not God. You can't control and do all of that. You don't create life anyway. So it's like, that's different. But look what you have subjected yourself to if that happens and he seems disappointed because of his timing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that right there will scar you where you will never forget it. And when the baby come or whatever, you can still remember you didn't want it anyway. Right. And now you already messed your marriage up based on your thoughts. And so we got to be able to
use your turn signals. All right, come on. Maintain a safe following distance. As not to run into the back of someone, you should consider the speed, the road conditions, the stop rate of your vehicle. All these things you have to consider. You know, if I'm driving 3 car lengths behind someone at 30 miles per hour, that's safe or whatever. That's one thing. But if I'm driving 3 car lengths behind somebody at 100 miles per hour in the rain,
waiting on it,
that's just in the snow. Undercut with ice, that's just ridiculous. Yeah. I'm not considering the conditions.
I think you were suicidal.
Yeah. You're not considering the conditions. And so in your marriage, you should have a couple, listen to this, because a lot of people don't have this. You should have a couple or, more than one couple, maybe couples, that you follow their example. As they follow Christ, you follow them in their marriage. You have earthly examples that you see that, man, I want our marriage to be like that. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean everything 100%, but for the most part, I want my marriage to be like them. I'm following them as they're leading a good example as believers with a good marriage. You should have that. But here's the potential problem. Don't follow too closely. What do I mean by that? Consider the conditions. What do I mean by that? Don't blindly follow some other couple so closely that you don't consider what it is that they tell you to do. Because if they tell you to do something, you just do it, and that goes against scripture, or that goes against something that you and your wife have previously talked about, that what y'all want to do in your relationship, then you're following them a little too closely. You got to keep a safe distance enough to be able to see them and see how they operate, even under pressure, to see how they operate, but not too close to where you can't take and judge what they are doing against the word of God and against good wisdom.
Yeah, because, when we travel and we do conferences and stuff, I always ask women, what does it take to be a good wife? And, and most of them give me all of the Christianese and give me all of the regular things that people say. Take care of the house, cook, take care of the kids, all those different things. But have you ever thought about just asking him, what does a good wife looks like to you? Not what it looks like to my husband or to your pastor or to whomever. What does it look like to him? Because if you're trying to do it the way that I do it for my husband, your husband may hate it. So you need to ask those questions. And what we find out is people have been married for 10, 15 years and have never asked that question. It's like, sit down with each other. If you can't talk, the marriage is already messed up. So if you can't sit down and say, hey, honey, what does a good wife look like to you? If he's a chef and you up in here trying to cook the food and burn it up and you calling that a good wife, you're frustrating him, you know? Yeah. And so ask these questions. What does that look like? We wrote stuff down, and used to carry this thing of those things. And then over time, people change and evolve. Ask again.
People do evolve.
And maybe at the 10-year mark, ask again.
Maybe you used to like grape jelly, now you like strawberry jelly.
Yeah, because we are coming to our third 10 years, so almost 30, So it's like, it's time to ask again, So every 10 years, ask again.
That's good. And then our last one, this is our last one. Execute maneuvers safely. All right? Just because the light turns green doesn't mean that you can make a right turn without caution. Because there might be a pedestrian ready to cross the street when that light turns green. And just because the light turns green, if you proceed without caution or if you maneuver unsafely, you can run over to a pedestrian and cause yourself, bigger problems with your driving record. And so what does that mean about your marriage? We must learn to be careful about sudden moves that we make in conversations with each other. Look before you leap. What do I mean by that? Check the mood of your spouse and when you're in conversation. Watch for their facial expressions, their body language. Listen for size. Watch the head turn or whatever. Like, what you say?
Mine's still turning.
Watch the different signs that go on or whatever, because it might not be time for you to say that. Just because you have the ability to say it,
and because you've grown,
and you can say it, it might not be the time to say it. You may need to proceed with caution. It might not be the time. Later may be a better time. Maybe I remember the statistic that in normal working environments, banker hours type working environments, most couples do most of their arguing around 5 or 6 p.m. in the evening on Monday through Friday.
Yeah, from all of the stress.
That's from all the stress of the day of work. And then they come home and there's no letdown, no release, no whatever. And then it's just like, now here comes the stress of home, hitting on top of the stress of the day. Yeah. That's not the best time. Somebody might need to go take a bath first, relax, go sit down and, put their feet up for 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so the question is, what's wrong with that? Because so many people have a problem with that. Like, you just got home and I should know by now that you need to unwind. But it's like, I hear couples all the time and they be like, man, I just got home, and it blows up because they just won't give that person a moment. Yeah. It's like, we got to deal with these insecurities. What you would call the, what's the other word I'm looking for? Codependency, neediness, and all of those type of things. Because if those things doesn't exist, then that person lives in the same house with you. They are at home. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that go down in their man cave and play video games until midnight,
Till
2 o'clock in the morning, and who don't participate with his family.
He had a little elevator built into the house where you just lower his food down. You don't even bring it down into the cave. You lower it down into the cave.
You are abandoning your family. And you're allowing that woman to have to figure it out on her own when you are so wrapped up in yourself, in your needs, and your wants. That is not okay.
That's not okay. So execute maneuver safely. All right, that's it. Man, this has been fun. Hope you've learned something today.
Never look at people.
Go ahead and look and see if you have any questions you want to read off before we close. I know
I'm going to turn this around to you, and you can pick. I got this one over here. They're right there.
Oh, go ahead and talk to the people while I read.
Y'all all right? No, but go ahead. And so I hope that you guys are enjoying all of these Fridays all the way live with the Lovebirds. But guess what? Every video that we have done are all on YouTube on Flourishing Families, plural, ministry page. And that is once again on YouTube at Flourishing Families Ministry. And they're always on our pages, James Byrd's page or Dr. Angel Byrd are on the Lovebirds page. And so if you want to share it with friends and family, hopefully you are sharing, because people are hurting right now, just like we are doing the protesting and doing all this stuff because we want to make a difference. Make a difference in a family first so we can get strong enough to be able to fight all those demons and things that we got to fight out there. So share this with everybody that you know and let them know that these are on there for them.
All right. Some great comments
in
there or whatever. So there were no questions. So just if you want to, I'm sure you're already reading the comments as you're going along. We'll appreciate the comments. Continue to post comments. If you have any questions, even after we close the show, go ahead and put them in there. My wife will read them all. And we'll respond.
But some of the comments that were made were, we have to be careful because some of them is from your perspective, what you would do, and it sounds so easy to do, but you put that other person that may not be like you and may not respond like you, and then you got chaos. So
so that's why you have to understand that in a marriage, you consider it a union or a team, like you said earlier, and on any good team, we get together and we huddle up. We get together and we circle up during the timeout, during the practices. And we talk about what are we going to do that's going to be effective, that's going to help us to win, to achieve the victory. And it's just what you got to do in your marriage. If you solo if the marriage only operates based off of you, and you don't consider the other person, and it's not give and take in there, it's not coming to an agreement in there, then your marriage is really not working. You just have a person that's just silently taking it. Yeah. And at some point, what happens if they can't take it no more? That we see that happen. Yeah. Well, that's why when children leave, when people leave and things like that, that opens up the door for someone else to come in and snatch your spouse away or things like that, because you're not taking into effect or into account in the union their perspective and just trying to run it all on your own.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, great show. Again, this has been all the way live with the Lovebirds. I am Dr. James Byrd, one half of the dynamic duo, joined by my lovely wife, Dr. Angel Byrd. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying your name.
Go ahead.
My lovely and talented, beautiful wife, and she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd, and it was okay for him to say it.
And together we are
the Lovebirds.
And we will see you next Friday.
Anybody got a prescription, for this love pain? Anybody got a pill like a pop for this love pain?